Magandang gabi. Good evening mga katropang trainers. And welcome to another episode of Usapang Training at iba pa. So, kailangan pala live magkakasama. So magandang gabi po at thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight promises to be a very interesting night because of our conversation. At bago po tayo magsimula, ako po si Edwin Hebreo. I'm the lead host for tonight. I'm a member of the Philippine Society for Talent Development Board of Trustees. At outside of PSTD, I'm the CEO of ExecuServe. Pearl?
Yes, I'm Pearl Martinez. I am the Global L&D Manager for SGS & Co. and also the Chair of the Membership Committee of the PSTD. Welcome, katropang trainers. And we have Louie.
Louie Banta po, Chief Trainer ng LJNB at supporter volunteer for the Philippine Society for Talent Development.
Ayan. So, ayan po ang ating mga katropa na magtatanong ng mga importanteng katanungan sa ating honored guest for tonight. But bago po natin gawin yan, may konting kakaiba sa ating setup ngayon dahil magkakasama kami sa isang kwarto at sasamantalahin po natin ito. Dati meron tayong balitang PSTD, but just for tonight, we'll skip that. I hope you were here nung nagsimula tayo, because we already shared some of the key events that are going to happen sa PSTD, including the training at syempre, huwag natin kalimutan yung research conference sa July 27. So tonight, our topic is about succession planning and management as part of talent development. And as you know, if you have been following the show, ay meron po tayong talent development framework. At last week, pinag-usapan po natin yung career planning and management. At ngayon naman, yung other side of that coin, which is succession planning and management. At nabingwit po namin ang pinakamagandang maging resource guest para dito sa topic na ito. Somebody who's been, the idol of many talent development practitioners, former Vice President for HR of BPI. Ito po fresh out of Indonesia. Siya po ay CHRO ng isang group of company. Hindi ko matandaan yung pangalan.
Gunung, Sewu, Kenyana.
Ang hirap big kasi.
At San Golden Mountains.
17 companies, At hindi yan po peak of the iceberg. Hindi ko nababanggatin yung iba. Wala pong iba kundi ang walang kakupas-kupas si Mr. Roberto Bobby Galvez.
Yes.
Maraming salamat sa inyong pag-imbita, mga katropang trainers. Magandang gabi po. Natutuwa ako at nakasama kayo.
Naswertehan lang natin si Bobby kasi galing siya sa marathon, so nandito siya sa Pilipinas ngayon.
Pero suki si Bobby. I noticed na sa mga past usapan na nandoon ka rin.
Habang tumatakbo. Pag ganitong time, usually Sunday afternoon, tumatakbo ko.
Talaga?
This morning.
Okay. So para sa atin po, inagahan ni Bobby yung pagtakbo. And I heard, Bobby, na you're now focusing on consulting.
Yeah. So recently, I established yung Change Mentor Consultancy, focused on change management, and Career Coach International, focus on helping organizations develop their managers on the aspect of coaching. Kasi I think every manager should be a coach.
Yeah.
I agree.
Should be a career coach, and every employee deserves to be coached in terms of their career.
Absolutely.
Kailangan natin lahat yun eh.
Deserve, right?
Everybody deserves someone to help them think through their career future.
And I can see that somewhere down our conversation, mapapag-usapan uli yung coaching na yan and even mentoring. So start the ball rolling, no? Yung first question ko is really banking on your long experience as an HR and talent development practitioner. I'm sure you have in your implementations of succession plans and management, you have encountered a lot of challenges, no? So can you share with us those challenges and what kind of lessons you've learned from your experience?
That's a very good question, no? Kasi yung succession planning or succession management, just to clarify the concept, is different from career management. Yung career management is for everybody, it's for all employees. Yung succession management is something that only the CEO and the HR, and if there is a board or nomination board, if this is a corporation, or the people responsible for the approval of top-level appointments, usually members yan of the board, and shareholders, no? They're the only ones who know and responsible really for succession management. Kaya yung sabi natin, career management is for everybody. Succession planning is something the HR and the CEO keeps close to their chest. Hindi alam ng iba kung ano yung details nandoon, even if you require all the leaders in the organization to come up with possible names,
with candidates,
with candidates. Pero the details on sino ba yung napupusuan, sino ba talaga yung tinatarget,
confidential yun.
Confidential lahat yun.
So, okay, sige. Mamaya may tanong ako tungkol dyan. So, yung career management focuses on the person's career. Yung succession focuses on key positions.
Exactly.
Yung what is needed in order mga critical positions.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Edwin, that you're saying. Yung succession management, you do not target all the senior leader positions.
Yeah.
Meron tayong tinatawag na mission critical roles.
Mission critical.
Kasi madami yan, ubusan time mo eh. Tapos it's very difficult to find really good talent. So you focus on what we call the mission critical roles. What are these mission critical roles? These are the positions na pinakamalaki ang impact sa revenue ng organization. Sila yung talaga nagdadala ng business o yung buong survival ng organization. And these are just a few positions, mga 5, 7. If it's really a large organization, mga 15 positions. So you focus only on these mission critical roles. Ang differentiation din yan, these positions are difficult to replace. Not
it takes a long while to get a person ready for that position. Is
that's one. It's difficult to get a talent that would match your requirements. Kasi you're supporting the organizational strategy. Alam mo, 5 years from now, halimbawa, direction ng organization mo mergers and acquisitions. Ibang requirement mo for your talents. Kung kami in the company that came from, where we're moving from manufacturing focus into a sales and marketing focus. Kasi ano kami, toll manufacturer. We were exporting to 55 countries. Ngayon, magaling kami sa manufacturing, but we do not have the key competencies that would allow us to become a major player sa retail.
Sa distribution.
Sales, distribution, marketing. So, kailangan may transition. And we need talent. Hindi pwedeng overnight yun. Tapos yung the leader at the top, may pagbabago din na kailangan. Kailangan humanap ka ng pang-replace mo. Kasi the previous leadership might be manufacturing focus. Magaling doon. Yan, iba yung requirement mo eh. Pati yung mga supporting managers, iba din. Tapos may culture change din na kailangan.
That's right.
So it is supportive of your what we call strategic priorities. Yung hanapin mo mission critical roles, yung sinasabi mo, Edwin, na mahirap siyang i-replace. Mahirap kumuha ng kapalit. Yung kakayahan, may mga halimbawa, for example, it
Yung
would
may
require,
institutional knowledge din, di ba?
one is institutional
Oo.
knowledge, but the other is relationships.
Mm-mm.
For example, it requires a lot of government compliance and regulations.
Network yan.
Oh, network. Ang hirap palitan yan. Kasi it takes time eh.
Oo.
So, hindi ka pwedeng yung ipampapalit mo ngayon mo kukunin.
Mm-mm.
Kailangan matagal. Ang preparation, papasok mo na kaagad siya. 3 years at least before the person retires. Kasi hindi lang papakilala yan. Kailangan mag-build ng relationship. So, those are mission critical roles na-identify yan ng HR with the other leaders. Kaya kailangan you should know the business very well.
Pero ganoon talaga ka-konti yun, Bobby? 5 to 7 or 15 in a large organization. Ganoon talaga kasala yung
Mahirap kasing mahirap humanap ng talagang excellent talent. Ang ito din differentiation nun. Will choosing the person, an excellent performer, superior performer, really make a difference for that position.
Mm-mm.
If you can just get an average or a solid performer, okay na ba? May mga, sometimes operations, okay na yan.
Can do the work na.
Can do the work now, or kahit na hindi ganun ka super galing, it will go on. Kasi you have already put systems in place. Halimbawa kami, we have all the best practices in manufacturing. So,
Parang caretaker.
pwede. So, it doesn't necessarily become a mission critical role. Pero pag yung tao, pag magaling siya talaga, he could double the sales, for example. Ay, iba yun. Iba yung implication.
Kasi di ba may career management ka na. So, yung roles mo, parang may mga tao na yan. So, normally, pag umalis ka, merong papalit sa'yo.
That's actually a big problem.
Oo.
Kasi mayroon kang legacy positions that filled with the solid performers, not by excellent performers. Kaya makikita mo, even if these are mission critical roles, sometimes only about 50% of them are filled with superior performers. Hindi nagmamatch. One way, so
Baka nga meron ka, nakaupo doon, obsolete na yung alam.
but technically, okay.
Kaya
solid, solid,
solid
oo.
performance.
Legacy siya.
Oo.
Hindi mo, and yet, ang soft question mo I want to put another person who is an excellent potential, no? Would have excellent potential for that position. Medyo, that's why it should take time. Kasi prepare mo yung exit ng legacy person with your superior performer. And that's a big risk. Kasi you still don't know whether that potential person would really succeed. Kaya, it's a long process. Ibig sabihin, nita-target kang position, hindi pwede siyang i-hire mo ngayon. Hire mo muna siya 3 to 5 years before. Tapos, ilalagay mo muna siya in some positions, maybe below that, to see how he performs. So that by the time na kailangan, ready na siya.
So given that, tanong ko, Bobby, ano naman yung mga tools, processes na kailangan alam ng isang talent development professional in order to do all this succession management?
Ang pinaka-critical yung business knowledge. You need to
We're talking about the HR
HR person.
Oo.
The HR person. He needs to know how value is developed and built. Kasi ang number one competency na hinahanap mo sa isang business leader, aside of course from integrity, given yun
Basic yun.
Basic yun. There's no such thing as high or low integrity. There's only integrity.
Diba? Walang rubric. Walang rubric, walang level 1, level 2.
Integrity, so given na yun. But there are 3 things that you are always looking for. 1, kung business leader yan, entrepreneurship. Kahit ang galing sa manufacturing, kailangan he knows how to spot potential opportunities to grow the business or increase the value of the business. Number 1 yun. Second, yung clarity of thought. Yung clarity of thought, andun na yung analysis, decision making. Malinaw mag-isip. may iba't
Yung
ibang
HR ang
idea.
pinag-uusapan natin dito, ha? Yung talent development practitioner, ha? Oh.
Kasi may mga madaming suggestion from the other department heads.
Yeah.
You should be able to ask the right questions. Kung ano ba yung
Si ano, pwede na to. Pwede na i-promote. Parang gano'n.
So, sasabihin mo, what do you think will that person be able to do it confronted with this kind of situation?
Correct.
So, kailangan alam mo yung situation ng mga nasa
Ah.
business. Kung dapat nakadubog ka sa business. Third is leadership. Leadership, medyo all-encompassing.
Mm.
It could include building partnerships with other, not only with the other departments, but with supplier, with customers. Yung iba magaling lang sa customer. Pero for the people below them, talagang ano siya, grabe micromanager. Kailangan, sa amin, it's very important na empowering ka. There are some very good potential leaders that we've decided not to proceed because they are not empowering. They do not know how to empower.
Pero,
So, ganun.
sorry. Then, ano ko lang, no? Kasi most of the things that you're talking about is more of the competencies of the HR person. But
No, these are the things that the HR person
Should look for.
should look
look
for.
for.
So,
But my question is, parang, if I am an HR person,
And I want to be,
development
I
professional,
want to be able to set up
succession planning.
a succession planning. What should I learn how
What
to do?
in terms of like a process or a tool, a technique that I need to know in order to be able to start a succession.
very good
management process.
question. Kailangan, of course, adverse ka with all the best assessment technologies and assessment methodologies, no? Kasi hindi pwedeng feel ko okay siya o feel ko magaling siya.
Intuitive
Came
lang.
came from a very good
So
school.
meron kang objective
long
way of
experience.
So what were you
So,
using
yung-
before the assessment tool?
You should be able, number one, if you're already in an organization, you should be able to set up a very good performance management system
Yeah.
that would differentiate high performers to average performers
To potentials.
to potentials and should be able to identify potential.
Mhm.
So, tunog na yung box yan. Yung bayan.
Kasama 9 bucks. Kasama talaga yung 9 bucks. Yun. So, one is assessment. Second, you must be able to know the basic, hindi lang basics kailangan advanced knowledge of instructional design.
Okay.
Kasi, you know, if there are areas that the person need to develop in, what is the best way to address it? And that could be addressed in different ways. Meron kaming technology na siguro I'll discuss it later.
So you know L&D planning. For that position, you have to kasi
hindi lang for that position. Meron kasi kami, we call it talent by talent approach. Yung talent by talent approach, we create what we call a success plan. Yung success plan, kasi yung iba developmental plan. We don't come up with a developmental plan. Kasi yung developmental plan addresses
gaps.
Weaknesses.
Kaya
you develop them. Kami success plan, kasi you build on the strengths. Di ba? Strength-based kami. Approach in leadership. So we look at the strengths and how the best way to develop them so that the person could be promoted at least twice in 5 years. Ang definition kasi namin ng top talent is that the person has the potential to be developed at least twice within 5 years.
Ang tawag nyo, talent for talent?
Talent by talent.
Talent by talent.
And then it's strengths-based.
Strengths-based. Ano siya, depende dun sa tao kung ano ang kailangan niyang i-go through na learning experience,
This is
success
hyper
experience.
customized for that talent.
That's why konti lang.
Ah, kasi imagine ko para magawa mo yon, the success plan, the better term rather than development plan that addresses the weakness, has to be hyper customized for that person.
For that person. That's why
For that candidate, for
Really
the
targeted for the mission critical roles.
targets for the mission critical role kasi alam mo yung requirements niya. Tapos, alam mo din sa organization, ano yung mga possibilities na pwedeng ibigay sa kanya para ma-develop yung specific competencies or skills. Meron kaming, sige, baggitin ko na yung term. And I think I've mentioned this to you several times. Yung concept ng assignmentology.
Yung assignmentology.
Yung assignmentology, no? Parang define natin. The assignment of high-impact initiatives that becomes a superior learning experience for talents to develop specifically targeted competencies by giving them opportunities to succeed or fail. Kasi doon sa concept namin, or I think you are all doing it also, yung 70-20-10. Di ba? Yung 70% is learning from experience.
Right.
But ito, targeted. Sabihin, focus siya.
Specific experience.
Specific experience, it's an assignment that is high impact. Ibig sabihin talagang you are expected to deliver big revenue. O talagang maybe launch a new product, enter a new market.
Yeah.
Talagang
Business.
talagang
Parang
high
yung
impact siya.
experience navigator.
Oo.
Experience-based.
Experience-based. Tapos,
Hindi
kasi kukunti yung opportunities nito in an organization.
I
You
imagine,
will serve it to the top talent.
Correct.
hindi mo kasi pwedeng gawin sabay-sabay. Magugulo mo to.
Hindi, may challenge ka kasi.
Oo.
Kasi yung top talent mo, kailangan ng mentor. Kailangan mentor magaling din. Mahirap kumanap ng magaling na mentor within an organization.
Yun lang. Ako,
We train the
naiisip ko
mentor.
lang, kaya gumagawa ka ng succession planning or whatever, succession management. Yung boss nung nandun sa successor mo, nandun siya sa position, pero hindi naman siya top talent.
Ang ganda ng tanong.
Paano yun?
That's why the HR owns the talent.
Kasi paano mo rin,
What do you mean? What do you mean HR owns the talent?
If the person is unable to supervise him properly, the HR
Takes
can
over.
step in
okay.
and reassign him.
Oo.
That's why kailangan alam ng CEO eh. Hindi kasi yung reassignment,
So yung successor dun sa incumbent should be better than the incumbent. Hindi ka hindi ka nagko-clone.
actually, that's a very good point. Kasi hindi, lahat naman tayo, di ba? Yun ang principle natin when we always hire someone better than us. Pero ito, pag top talent, kasi naman pag top talent, 10 times better.
Ang worry ko parang, paano kung nandyan siya, hindi mo siya ma-promote kahit na top talent siya, hindi mo siya ma-promote to that position.
Because
Pero
may
kung
incumbent.
wala.
Kaya kailangan yung HR, magaling din yung influence skills. Kasi you talk to the boss, you talk to the boss of the boss, may partnership ka, you discuss the success plan.
May political savvy ang HR.
Exactly. So, kailangan yun. Sabi mo, ano ba kailangan malaman niya? Kailangan yung organization sensitivity and organization influence. Nandoon.
Leader talaga dapat ang
These
HR.
are common situations, scenarios na we hear it all the time, no? Na yung talent aalis, correct? Because the immediate manager of the talent, no, is not serving as a great mentor
Or role model.
or maybe is even the roadblock, no, to that success plan, di ba?
Tapos
Kaya
yung
konti lang yung kailangan mo talaga. Kasi mamonitor ng HR eh. Pamonitor mo, kinakausap mo palagi, tinitingnan mo kung na-promote mo siya. Pag hindi siya na-promote, alarm bell yun. Di ba? Kapag, what's happening to that person? Why is he not performing? Kasi, kailangan, narinig, di ba? Yung, what we do, we create opportunities for this top talent to present to the owners of the company, to shareholders, to the other CEOs, to show the staff that they have, so that when they assume the position, it's no surprise, because all the other people already know that this is a high potential person performing magnificently in the assignments.
Tapos aalagaan mo na no?
Yes.
Kasi dapat hindi siya mag-resign
That still happens.
Oo.
I had one talent, we developed her. Talagang ang galing na through assignmentology kasi may training din yun. We train them parang MBA. They get trained in strategy, finance, everything, business. But hindi namin matapatan kasi kinuha siya. We started, she came in, she was very young, but 25. After 4 years, she was doing very well. May isang New York-based, kinuha siya to manage their company, the company in Indonesia, and she would be managing about 500 people, and she was only 29. I cannot compete with that.
Oo.
And speaking of that, that's your question, ano, yung tungkol dun sa how do you navigate yung ano to, yung
engagement ng mga tao, especially today. We are here of anong mga usang terms niyan, great resignation, quiet quitting na ngayon, may loud quitting na po, no? No? Maybe not.
Ano ba yung nagsisigaw habang nagre-resign?
Talagang actively.
Tsaka nang-influence ng iba Quiet.
Ano effect nun sa yung succession plan?
As long as these are not your top talents.
Guwapa kayo.
Kasi, siyempre, sa top talents, you take care of them, including their pay.
Yeah.
Tapos, if they are being offered, you sit, you can match it, di ba? Pero sa career management kasi, especially for the top talents, they know that they are being groomed for higher positions. These are not promises. Na in 2 years time magiging ganito ka. But a career conversation is conducted. Importante yon.
They're being groomed.
They're being groomed. Alam niya na he's being valued by the company or she is being valued by the company. These are the things that would need to happen for her to accelerate. Kasi sabi nga namin, kailangan ma-promote at least twice within 5 years.
Para maramdaman niya yung growth.
You inform the manager of the top talent. Alam niya.
Alam niya.
Oo.
So, pag hindi niya pinapromote, I can get back. Bakit hindi?
May problema ba?
Hindi pa
May problema. Hindi pa napopromote. Actually, some of them are getting promoted even much faster. There are some people na katapos ng career conversations, we ask them, kasi yung mentor nila, hindi man direct boss we ask them to talk to their bosses. And some of them realize, they got promoted even ahead. Several times, you were mentioning, several times, na-promote, na-accelerate. Kasi minsan, siyempre ang mga bosses busy sa work, they are not able to pay enough attention.
So it's the HR then that has to monitor.
Monitor and tap the shoulder of the bosses if needed, and do conversations with the person and the boss. So time to show me siya
na alaga, no, para dun sa
kasi laki ng investment.
And speaking of that, like there are a lot of questions simmering in my head, and I think it's time I ask. The way we're talking about succession, please correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like, it can be an expensive endeavor, and it sounds like pang malaking kumpanya lang ba ito? And then we're talking about key talents. Pero sinasabi natin sa mga managers, supervisors, they have to develop their yung kanilang mga next in line
to
succeed them. So yung first question is, pang malaking kumpanya lang ba to? Yung second is it worth it to train your managers, your supervisors to come up with their own succession plan, so to speak?
Sige. Yung first question, pang malaking kumpanya lang ba ito? I think lahat ng business owners are
Diba?
always thinking of how to leverage their talents. So they're always on the lookout for very good people
To take over.
or to grow the business.
Grow the business.
Kasi sa amin, halimbawa, may ino-offer ng mga businesses. The first question of the owner is, do we have the people to manage that? If we acquire that business, do we have the people? So kung wala kang sagot doon,
Ito yan.
kailangan talaga concern ng every business of every size. Second, for a time, nang mauso yung startups, naging kompleto na lang namin for talent yung mga startups. But the main difference that we could offer is that kasi there were some startups na bumubuhos yung pera. There's to spend, di ba? So for a time. Pero walang real training binibigay. They get all the experiences which is valuable.
Yun nga yung sabi, they buy talents, they don't grow them.
Sa methodology, you make sure that they get the challenges and opportunities to grow as fast as possible. So yun ang pang-match mo doon sa growth ng ino-offer ng startups. Kasi dito sa cementology, they get experience not simply a line job, but the whole works. P&L, managing other people, managing other departments. Kasi ang requirement ng cementology, it should cross borders.
Right.
You should be able to interface with people that you're not getting the opportunity. So, kailangan siyang gawin kahit na maliit na organization. And they should really spend on developing their people. Kasi doon ang kakatalo usually.
Na-imagine ko na merong expensive way of doing it and there's a less expensive way of doing it. You just have to be creative.
Actually, daming inexpensive ways of doing it. Kasi, halimbawa kami.
Kasi ayoko ma-overwhelm mo. Tapos parang gastos yatang gawin ito.
One of the things that we introduce yung just follow the thought leaders in Twitter, in TikTok, information available in YouTube. Ang dami mong pick up and there are a lot of free courses. So talagang kami, ang ginagawa namin.
Parang ngayon, hindi mo na kailangan ng parang elements kasi pumunta ka sa YouTube, ang dami.
Updated pa, latest pa.
So, yun. Your second question.
Pero bago yun, Lilina, assignmentology po, hindi Scientology. Ano po? Assignmentology. Lilinawin ko na. Hindi po religion.
I think there's any way they could mistake me for Tom Cruise. Napakalayo.
Kung paano ko mag-proceed, Bobby, yung klarong sagot dun sa pangmalakihan, pangmaliit na kumpanya, hindi po, no?
Hindi.
In fact, dahil mas maliit kang kumpanya,
Mas malaki yung urgency.
You cannot afford to lose talent kasi kukunti lang ang tao mo.
And you are always on the watch out for good talent.
At ang na-experience ko sa mga maliliit na kumpanya, ang papalitan mo yung CEO dahil gusto na mag-retire.
Trend ngayon, meron silang family company. Sinasabi sa akin, hanapan mo naman ako ng general manager at presidente kasi gusto ko nang magpunta sa abroad dahil nandun lahat ng anak ko. Wala doon sa family nila na gustong mag-take
Pero
over.
the point of Bobby nga, pag hinahanap ganyang mga mission critical positions, hindi one option is to hire, buy talent from
Buy
the outside.
talent,
Pero yung alternative mo is to prepare them, hire them early for a lower position and then prepare them.
And then accelerate them. Yun nga, may isa pa akong example. We got him again, 24-year-old, 25-year-old. We give him several assignments, penetrate a new market, come up with a prototype on how to sell this kind of business or this type of market. And he was able to successfully do it within the 6 months using Agile. Of course, I was guiding him all throughout on the Agile method, mentoring him. So very successful. Then he was given a new assignment, different assignment, and now in just 4 years, less than 5 years, he's the deputy director now, our own startup. So ganun ka at very young age, 28, 29.
So yung acceleration ng ng succession will be around that time, between 3 to 5 years dapat magawa mo.
Oo, kung malaking organization, siyempre longer, it would take time kasi pag the bigger the organization, maturity
Mas
also
mahaba yung time na kailangan.
so especially kung madami kayong layers, then it would take maybe 10 years na promotion to
Paano
or
kaya
three
sa mga
promotions.
Gen Zs yan?
Importante yung challenges eh. As long as they feel that they are growing, that is essential. If they feel they are growing in the kind of challenges that you are giving them, and you are giving coaching and mentoring all throughout the process.
May question ako.
Meron yung mga questions sa chat ha.
Teka, may second question pa ako.
Sige,
Meron pa pala.
Yung sa mga managers and super, should they learn how to do succession within their
units.
units?
What they need to learn is to conduct a career conversation and help the employee explore the options within the organization and the kind of learning that the employee needs to have and experience within the organization. And what are the opportunities that can be. So kailangan, ang nangyayari kasi, most of the conversations with the boss and the subordinate would focus on performance.
Current, no?
Gaps, or this is what's going to prepare you. Pero yung regular conversations about career and learning from their own experiences, hindi nangyayari. Yung meron kaming system, part of the methodology, yung structured reflection. Structured reflection, kailangan after the specific assignment has been given, whatever has happened, whether it's successful or not, meron kang discussion of what do you think would happen if you did this? If this happens, what do you think? Para may siyang scenario building na explore. So, kasama yon sa process ng coaching and feedback. Kasi just because they had experience, does that mean they learned? Not necessarily. So, kailangan i-assist nung mentor or nung boss yung reflection process about that specific learning. Ngayon, mahirap gawin, di ba, for everybody. So at least you target first the mentors or the bosses of your high potential.
I think yun yung key. Kasi it doesn't have to be the immediate boss. Kung makapag-develop ka ng mga mentors, then there will be more people to have that meaningful conversation about careers and direction. Pero kasi in the process, nakikita mo rin kung sino yung may potential para mag-take over ng role mo should you move up, or
maganda yon kasi dahil yung mentors hindi naman direct boss, there are more people who would endorse that person for promotion and for assignment from in other departments or special projects. Yung special projects, especially if commissioned by the leaders of the organization, that would have a very big impact.
Nakikita ko yung connection dito nung ito yung kasi on one hand you have succession where you're looking to fill critical positions, and then on the other yung career management that helps people
Progress.
train their side towards a particular role in the organization. Okay.
Well, ikaw, tapos puntahan natin itong mga nasa chat.
Siguro, how often should succession planning be done by HR? And yung isang nakita ko, kunyari, meron kang na-identify na dapat successor siya, critical, ganyan. Meron bang instances na they fall off the grid?
Okay, 2 questions. How often? Yung how often we have an annual process. On top of the compensation discussions on who did well, it's business present their succession plan. It's business not only present their business plan, but their list of top talents and emerging talents. Tapos, they presented the success plan for these people.
Mm.
And we go through them. Kailangan the CEO should really spend time on who your talents are in the organization.
Yeah.
Tapos, yung CEO din, or the owners, shareholders, no, would have lunch or dinner with these top talents. So they feel special.
Mm.
They know.
Mm.
You communicate to them that they are considered as the top talents or top potentials within the organization. Kasi they're getting that special opportunity.
Mm.
Tapos, pag may, halimbawa, meron kaming Harvard class every year. We invite professor from Harvard every year. Usually, ang nag-attend lang doon, yung mga senior officers. Doon nag-attend ang top talents namin.
Select individuals.
Kasi batang-bata
Oo.
sila. Kung consider
Ito yung mga tinatawag ng mga hindi top talents na mga anak ng Diyos.
Ito nga yung magandang question sa chat room, no? Related dyan. Buti na raise mo yun, Bobby. Sabi ni Steffi, one problem with the succession planning program is the perception of an elite group. Right? Kasi nga, kung sila lang ang pwedeng umattend or have access to these opportunities.
Okay, mga anak ng Diyos nga.
Diba? That can breed envy from other members of the organization. What can we do to prevent this from happening? Total, nandiyan na tayo sa, they're really...
May politics.
group,
No?
diba?
Nagkakaroon ng politics.
Okay. Yung perception na may elite group, okay lang yun.
Okay.
Because if the employees see them as really top performers.
Hindi paborito lang.
Hindi paborito lang. That's why,
Ah.
yung una kong minention, your performance management system should really work very well to differentiate performance.
Mhm.
So that the people who are at the top achieve that because they are seen and recognized as really the top performers. And I think in most organizations, they perceive it as fair. In the same way that sa sales, halimbawa, di ba? They are sent to Paris, they are sent to
Incentive tips,
Tokyo,
no?
incentives. They're performing well. So,
Hindi naman lahat papunta ron eh. Yung lang top sellers mo lang.
We create opportunities. Meron kaming mga sharing talks in the organization that the business unit shares how are they able to do it. Yung assignmentology, may presentation yan afterwards. After mga 5 months, 6 months, they present to the owners. They present to the other CEOs. They present to the others. Tapos naka-zoom din yan. Everybody could listen. So, they are seen as the superstars in the organization. So, walang question. Kasi Ben, if you are the elite, di ba? I think nobody would fault Hidden Diaz for winning the gold. Or Obenya. Di ba?
Performance-based, it's based on objective criteria.
Hindi dahil sa kaibigan, hindi dahil sa... So, yun ang key, yung performance management system. Kaya before your succession planning, kailangan maayos ang performance management system.
And to add to that, dapat meron ding sufficient development and engagement yung ibang mga groups or levels in the org. May not be as targeted, no, or as customized as this.
Ano ba may question? Boss, how do I get into that Harvard program? But kailangan this you should be able to perform and get rated. Depende dun sa ano nyo, no? Performance management. Kung dapat at least above average or depending kung 5 points scale or at least outstanding ka to be considered for that. Then you can attend.
Okay.
So walang question yon. Sabi, ano yun part of the system na recognize. Ibig sabihin yung question kanina ni Pearl. Can you fall off? Yes. There are people who fall off kasi nag-stall Hindi makapag-deliver for some reason after conversations, hindi. Or some leadership problems like arrogance. Kasi sa amin, valued ang humility. Pag mayabang ka, out ka na
So maganda yung sagot din dun sa kaninang tanong sa perception of elite, no? You are you're part of an elite group, but you should not really act in an arrogant manner.
Kasi part din naman ng parang characteristics mo of a top talent is the relationships.
Oh, relationship
Oo,
building, ability to,
relationships,
yun, that's why yung sa methodology, yung cross-border siya,
Oo.
ability to work whether upward or downward or at the same level. And
Kaya-
that would require a lot of humility. Hindi ka pwedeng pumunta doon sa kabilang department and sabihin mo, tukusan ako, kailangan ko to. We kick out one of the top potentials. Arrogant niya, akala niya dahil nasa list siya, pwede niyang i-order.
So naging magandang testing ground din siya for character, di ba? When you put people into this
Right.
targeted program.
Meron, especially for hires from outside. Halimbawa, kulang ka ng talent. So we hire people from outside. Yung sabi ko kanina, before ilagay siya doon, talagay mo muna sa ibang units to test. Diba kabago-bago kung ano-ano na yung failure. So out kagad siya. Hindi siya
Kaya sa amin, yung succession planning namin, ang 3 na characteristics na binibase on yung succession plan is competency and then achievement, which is performance basically, di ba? And then yung relationships na paano nagre-relate doon sa kaopisina, sa mga boss. So dapat buo yung tatlong.
buo talaga.
Oh, kasi yun yung yun yung leadership part How do you
Oo.
get people to align with you if you're incapable of building a productive relationship with?
Oh, wala ka kasi authority over them.
Oo.
Di ba? So how do you
So influence.
influence yung
Oo.
skill?
Kaya pa natin, marami pang tanong.
Oo, sige. Oo.
By the way, we have 41 people in the room minus yung mga accounts natin. So there are 38 who are joining us. No? Sabi ni Maribel, good PMS system should be in place. Sabi ni Luz Cumeta, in some organizations, succession planning management is taken just as an annual exercise, which is why I think the benefit from succession planning is not fully maximized to support company strategy. Nag-comment siya dun. Sabi ni Steph, HR should have a clout in the organization so that function that you mentioned earlier, Bobby, should they can really carry out. Ito yung mga tanong natin. What if the organization is very lean? Parang related din sa tanong mo
Kanina.
company. In the next position, the talent is being eyed for is already his boss.
Parang yun yung natanong na.
How can we continue to engage the talent through promotions kung the boss is still there? No?
Very good question. Very good question.
May dagdag ka dun, Bobby.
Hindi yun actually. Kailangan mo ng cross-posting policy. Kahit sa BPI, kung top talent ka, you're getting rotated every 2 or 3 years. For you to stay in your position, kailangan ng approval ng presidente mismo. Kasi the boss has 2 options. Either promote you or the HR steps in and take him and assign him in other units. So, it gives, kasi pag top talent to, they get bored easily. Tapos, first year, second year, nagpipick na yan third year. After 3 years, naghahanap na yan. So, kailangan di mo hintayin yung third year.
Kaya nga pag yung kami, magsa-succession plan, di ba din-differentiate mo yun, yung ready now and ready later. So yung ready now, pag hindi ba, ready now, walang position within that department. Sa talent review namin, may mga managers na sinatanong namin, ready now ito, pero walang opening. So, sasabihin ng isang manager, sige, kukunin ko na yan.
Yan. Maganda yan, magandang policy. Yun lang, concept ng ready now. Pag umabot siya dun sa ready now, medyo overripe na yun. Overripe na yun. Kailangan yung nasa 70-80% ready na.
Wow. Okay.
That's, sabihin, naghahanap na yun. Kasi iba yung perception natin, iba yung perception niya. Perception niya,
may nag-offer ng makupa niya sa
Kayang-kaya ko yung ginagawa ng boss ko. Actually, mas magaling pa nga ako.
So yung doon, bibibigit talaga ako doon sa owner namin. Sabihin niya, don't wait for him to get 100%, to 70%. Bigyan mo na kagad na ba ako? Promote him now.
And he will close that gap, no? Pag nandun na siya.
Kung
Kasi
kailangan mag-open ang position.
So pwede nating i-recalibrate, no? Yung ready now is about 70 to 80% ready.
Oo, yung kasi ganito. Yung
Hindi 100%.
yung ability, ang core noon yung growth mindset. Willingness to accept feedback from others, willingness to learn from others, willingness to ask for help. Yung many leaders think that it's a weakness to ask for help. Kaya yung pag nisay mo siya, tapos ayaw humingi ng tulong sa iba, negative yon. Kasi he should be willing to ask for help from the previous incumbent, from the people. How do we make this better? So, kailangan importante yung growth mindset for the leader.
Quick comment lang doon before I post. Ang daming tanong mo. Ayun, ang daming tanong. Quick comment lang doon. Sakit pa naman ng mga Pilipino yung ayaw magtanong. Not because they don't know, but because they nahihiya to show their ignorance. No? So just a quick comment.
Hindi naman yung false humility, yung ayoko magtanong, baka sabihin mayabang ako. Mga ganyan. Ayoko.
Hindi, maganda yan. Sagay ko, madami kang na-assist dyan. Kasi may tamang paraan na pagtatanong. May alam mo naman pag nagtatanong lang na to show na mas magaling siya. Di ba?
Devil's advocate.
Oo. Pero kung sincere and genuine yung pagtatanong mo, that's one way of building support.
May specific na tanong ako sa iyo, Bobby. I'm sure you have encountered this. Kasi I imagine alam mo, meron kang critical position and then you look for candidates. Hindi isang candidate lang. Dalawa, ganun.
Initial, during the hiring, yun nga, di ba? Ang sabi natin, you have many candidates, but most of the time, you hire
dumarating sa point na isa lang talaga yung dinidevelop mo.
Actually, di ba, you're lucky. You're lucky if you're able to find one. Whether internal or external. But may kang initial assignment na binibigay din. If you have more candidates, I do not usually encounter that.
If you have two, and then mamimili ka sa dalawa, parehong magaling naman. It just so happen, one is more suited for the job. How do you deal with the other one?
Yan yung magandang challenge sa organization. Kasi the organization should always be growing. A good organization should be growing at least 15% annually for you to really grow and give enough opportunities for people. Ngayon, kung they're targeting the same job, part ng role ng CEO is planning. Kasi kailangan, alam niya ito yung galing talaga ng boss ko. Sabi ng boss ko, sabi niya, everybody deserves a feedback. Everybody deserves a feedback. You're doing a disservice to the person if you do not give him a feedback. So, yung hindi napili should receive a feedback on how he could strengthen himself if another opportunity arises.
Pero feeling ko, if they're both top talents, you still continue developing this other person, di ba? And as
baka
much
maging 100% yun.
it's possible, di ba? You create opportunities for him, pwedeng job expansion.
Actually, ganito an organization will never run out of opportunities. Kasi you'll never run out of ways of growing your business, di ba?
At least 15%.
Di ba, ang problema palagi, how do I grow this business?
Wala akong tao.
Diba? So, kung mayroon kang tao who could grow a business, may idea siya how to grow the business, go! Go! Di ba? Yun at lagi ang problema natin Kaya yung sabi ko nila, entrepreneurship, pag kulang sa entrepreneurship, how could I build him as a leader? if he does not know how to grow the business.
Okay.
Yung sa kaninang cross-posting, yan din ang posibleng gawin dun sa, ano, di ba, dun sa second column.
Okay.
Tayo sa ibang
Oo,
questions, no?
sige, sige.
Comment ni Luz Cometa, mentors become sponsors of the talents. Sabi ni Kevin Nera, rather than frequency, experience namin sa career conversations, mas importante ang consistency than frequency. Oo nga naman, good point, no, the regularity. Question, naku, sunod-sunod na questions. Sabi ni Steffi Manhit, can you give different approaches in selecting, nominating high potentials? Yun yung unang question, Bobby. Tapos isusunod, how critical is the age of the talent? Kung ano, no, para lang ma-park mo. Pangatlong question, how do we ensure management eyes us to be their replacement and merit career advancement opportunities? Doon muna sa una. Anong gusto mong unang tanongin? No? Yung age siguro, madaling sagutin, ano? How critical is the age of the talent?
May kasing depende dun sa succession pool mo, how senior it is. Dun sa mission critical role. So for the mission critical role, that means you're looking at someone who's not yet there, if not internal, external. Diba? So you prefer person with a long runway.
Okay.
That means you could spend time
Yeah.
in the organization for quite a long time. So yung runway is important. The younger you are, that means the better.
Outs naman yun. Outs.
Hindi, sa age natin, coach na tayo. So, yeah. So, yeah. Pero meron ka din, at the lowest level, entry level, kailangan may dinidevelop kang pool of high potentials. So, they really enter the organization young. So, then you build them up so that you know that in 10 years' time, you can develop this person into a very senior mission critical role position. Yung management training program, kasi dalawang klase yun. May management training program na designed lang to fill up the managerial positions of the organization, not necessarily the mission critical roles. So, kailangan ma-differentiate mo dun sa management training program mo, sino yung pang other managerial position.
Pang
at
middle
sino
management.
Mission critical.
pang mission critical. Yun, nasa acceleration path yun. In terms of training that you give, coaching that you give, iba yun.
Normally, may mga C-level, no?
Just to share, no? Dun sa yung point mo ng runway. Kaya noon, dun sa isang organization that I was with, first year mo pa lang sa company, meron kaming potential assessment na ginagawa ng manager. Para makikita mo na from the very start, tsaka ang ina-assess doon, up to what level in the organization do we project? Hindi lang, hanggang manager lang ba siya? Or yung thinking ba niya, pang CEO or pang global ba? Pagka-assess nun, so tinitingnan yung, kung manager level ka, so regular lang yon, development program. But if you are assessed by your manager to be maybe a CEO sometime in the future, ang nag-aalaga doon yung global L&D. Kasi tinitingnan yun na dapat from the time that you enter, kailangan nababantayan ka hanggang tumaas ka ng ilang years. Diba? Para pagdating ng mga 5 years, ano ka na? Right ka na. At mahaba pa yung career path.
Tama yun. Iba yung listahan namin sa HQ, dun sa holding company. Iba yung listahan sa business unit. So, not everybody in their list would be in our list.
Correct.
So, yung top lang talaga minomonitor natin.
So in a way, may succession sila na up to the top of that business unit. At merong ibang listahan na talagang goes all the way to the group.
Correct.
Okay.
Na pwede naming i-cross-post in other companies.
Correct. Diba?
Or, kasi pag pag senior level position in a BU, in a business unit,
Correct.
may say na kami doon eh.
Oo.
So, yung mga lower level promotions, hindi namin papakita.
Pwede mo
Pero doon,
ganun
Oo.
lipat mo na ng kumpanya.
Okay.
Next question.
Meron pa? Sige.
7:01 po.
Kaya nga,
Ang kakaiba sa ating episode hanggang 7:30 po tayo ha. So dyan lang kayo, no? Yung virtual 1 hour nabibitin tayo, especially face to face tayo ngayon. give some tips daw, approaches in selecting and nominating high potentials.
Okay. Meron kaming before they can enter even the program, may management training program that is designed really for the top.
Mm-mm.
Very competitive yung process.
Mm-mm.
Series of simulations, series of presentations. So aside from the normal interview, we have group simulations like an assessment center, even for the management training level. And then also they are given case studies which they have to prepare on and present to a set of senior leaders from across the business
Right.
units. So nagpe-present talaga yun. And based on the question that we would ask, we will be able to really see whether there is clarity of thinking and innovativeness. Yung initiative kasi hindi trainable pero observable. So kitang-kita.
So, tinitingnan mo kung meron o wala.
Halimbawa, may presentation of we're looking at introducing a new product in the market. This is we did a recommendation whether to proceed or not. Yung talagang high initiative among the candidates, talagang would go out to the supermarkets, check what are the products available, ask the customers, why are you buying this? Then would hold a survey. High initiative talaga. Even on that level, kitang-kita mo, tapos the presentation. So, alam mo na they exert an extra effort. So, yon importante yon kasi gusto mo yung mga leaders na on their own, they take initiative. So, simulations work. Kasi ang hirap i-assess kapag new graduates or people below the level ng managerial. Pero kapag managerial na, we go back again to the performance management system. It should really work. If your performance management system is not able to spot the real talents, and usually, di ba, sa performance management system, mayroon kang component of the what? KRAs or KPI
KPIs,
or OKR.
Results.
Depende. Basta results.
Results.
Whatever your system, may portion yan on how the person is delivering the performance. Tapos mayroon ka ding portion on values and competencies. So kahit na pumapasa sila doon, pero baksak sila sa leadership competencies, lumalabas yon. Tapos lumalabas yon doon sa annual
Lumalabas
review.
baka lang siya, individual performer, hindi leader.
So, nasa nomination yon. Doon sa based on the performance, lumalabas yun sa nomination. Tapos you mentioned 9 bucks. We also use 9 bucks to see how are they performing in both areas. So, kailangan we ask the bosses to be intimate. Yung ang tawag namin doon there should be personal intimacy in terms of the capability of your top talent among the leaders. Kasi dapat yung leaders alam nila Tapos we're quite lucky that the leaders that we choose are people oriented leaders. They really take care of the top talent. So they try to know them, to really converse with.
So, sundan ko lang yung tanong na yun nung kasi 'di ba tinatanong ano yung pwede nating maging tip on nomination of talents. Along that line, you said earlier na yung succession list mo that's close to your chest, 'di ba? Hindi mo pinakikita yun sa mga tao. But is there a succession philosophy or should you communicate your succession program? Should you transparent about that so that people know na this is how we do succession in the organization?
Okay, very good question. Yung sabi ko kanina, career management is for everybody.
Yes.
So that is very, very transparent. Kasama din dyan yung performance management philosophy mo. That means you recognize people who perform and you behave according to the values. Your succession policy is based on those two aspects: performance and behavior according to your values and competency requirements.
Mm.
So, yun, ina-announce yun, na alam mo na this is how you get promoted, how do you target. Ang role doon ng leaders dito, pag identified siyang top talent, may discussion yan. What do you think would be a good high impact project for you para makilala ka ng bosses? Which is quite different from the others. Kasi naghahanap ka ng project na talagang could make him differentiate. Kaya yung sinasabi natin, if he could think of a way to penetrate a new needs for your products, develop a new product. Tapos ang experience namin, there's a high level of success. Tapos even those who fail, we recognize the effort and they still remain in the acceleration pool. If we know that they really try to show their best and yet the market is not receptive. Kasi ano naman yun sa agile, may agile system kami. So malalaman mo kagad whether one works or not. Tapos it's not as if sink or swim. Meron ka namang kasing meron kang mentor, meron kang coach, may natutulong sa'yo. So malinaw
so,
yun.
Yung motivation ng mga talents natin to do all these things, to give their best, is it coming from their understanding na na I need to do this if I have to move up in the organization?
Exactly.
Kasi nare-realize ko from our conversation na kapag wala kang ganitong klaseng succession plan, it becomes an entitlement. Ako pinakamatagal dito. Ako yung pinakamaraming alam. I should be the next. Di ba? Tapos pag hindi ikaw yung napili, sama ng loob mo. Di ba? Yung absence nga ng communication ng ano yung ating succession philosophy. How do people move up in the organization? What are the requirements? Have to be
Communicated.
Especially your performance management philosophy. There's difference between the regular promotions policy of a company dun sa fast tracking.
Yes.
Succession.
Yes. Basically, the requirements are very similar. Except that these people move faster. Kaya kailangan yung assignment projects nila highly visible. Kaya kami, pinapublicize namin yan. Kasama yan, minamarket namin yung projects to show that these are successful. They receive awards on this so that people know. So walang question masyado on who's responsible for what, who gets the credit for what. Kasi the bosses should know. And we talk to the people also under them. So importante. Of course, there are times siguro na did we not talk to the person? Di ba? Sometimes, syempre, something falls off the crack
Actually, that's an important question to ask, di ba? As leadership accountability, alam mo may potential yung tao, why did that person fall off the crack? It's also important to reflect na, did we not talk to this person enough? Yeah.
Should factor in the performance management naman of the boss, di ba? Kasi dapat may ganun siyang
Conversation.
Tama yun, importante yun. Kaya kailangan din ng HR to remind the boss. And tapos yung pag-monitor ng HR.
Make sure everybody's aligned when it comes to the implementation of the performance plan.
Kasi syempre maraming iniisip yung boss. Minsan hindi siya makapagbigay ng coaching, especially yung talagang the bosses who are also high potentials, top talents. Grabe, talagang busy din sila. So,
busy strategizing. So, wala nang time to talk to people.
Well, sometimes, ganun. Kaya kailangan you are in conversation with them on meron bang iba who could help in mentoring this person. Tapos, meron kang system of check-ins. Yung check-ins importante.
Yep, agree.
Okay.
May
Kaya
tanong pa
ba?
ba tayo? Oo.
Kaya pa. Actually, marami, no?
May isa akong final question mamaya nire-reserve ko as
Tatlong tanong.
ending question ko kay ano kay
Sabi nga ni Roberto, learning a lot from this
Dapat may part 2
conversation.
daw. Oo.
Wala, parang dapat may part.
Hindi kasi iba rin yung face-to-face eh. Talaga, ang galing magtanungan, hindi kailangan magkapaan at mag-unmute, no? So ito, feeling ko masasagot din ng ating PSTD program on coaching and mentoring. Pero baka may dagdag si Bobby, no? How do we motivate and encourage mentors to train and conduct career conversations to identify high potentials?
Oh, ang trainer ko dyan, si Maribel. Nandiyan ba si Maribel?
mentoring.
I called her to Indonesia to do the training and mentoring.
So, yeah.
Oo.
So,
Oh, and kitang-kita niya na ano, we train the bosses, we train the mentors,
Yeah.
and intensive training yon talaga na
Oo.
hindi automatic na pag nag-attend na ka ng training, marunong ka na. Hindi, doesn't
Oo.
happen na nag-attend ka ng training, magaling ka na. Hindi.
Kaya nga.
Never happens.
Actually, that's a very good ito, yun, that's a very good question. I'd like to be able to answer that. Madalas kasi, pag sinabing mentoring, yung attitude muna natin as talent development practitioners. Pag sinabing mentoring, sige, i-train natin, pa-attendin natin ng training on mentoring.
tapos bahala na kayo.
Oo, tapos bahala na kayong, kung ano natutunan nyo, gamitin ninyo. I think that if mentoring is to work, it has to be programmatic. Diba? Merong strategy si HR or si talent development practitioner on how to cultivate the culture of mentoring in the organization.
Oh.
And I think that's where maybe PSTD should come in to teach or to train our talent development practitioners on the aspect of developing a mentoring culture in the organization.
Not all leaders can mentor.
That's true.
And not all of them, even after training, alam ni Maribel yan, ang hirap baguhin ng behavior.
Yeah.
So some of them,
The hardest, the check.
some of them we decide, gano'n, na hindi ituloy.
Hindi pang mentor,
gano'n, hindi pang mentor talaga.
Pang manager lang. No?
Magaling siya doon sa trabaho, pero kasi sa amin, may process eh. You have to follow the steps. Na ito yung tatanong mo, ito yung mga ganito. May critical steps. DDI eh. So, step by step talaga. Pag hindi pinapalo, give feedback. Yung hindi makasunod, hindi. Kasi kahit na magaling kang hindi pwede.
Actually, yung you look at coaches, you look at mentors, you look at leaders. Yung totoo yung totoong coach, totoong mentor, tsaka totoong leader. When you give them training, they respond to it. Yung hindi, yung lang, na-appoint lang dun sa position. Kahit gano'ng kagaling yung trainer hindi kasi hindi sila motivated to do it.
Or, yung demands kasi of being the boss demands a different set of behaviors.
Right.
Sometimes from a mentor. Kasi dun sa bosses, daily you have to make decisions. Daily you have to tell people what to do.
Right.
Kaya kapag hindi ba kapagbigay ka agad ng solution, gawa ka ng solution. So, bigay ka agad ng solution. Which is quite different from mentoring. So, yung iba, kapag ganun na yung daily behavior niya, ang hirap baguhin, mag-shift ng mind na ito mentor role. Nahihirapan yung iba. So, pag ganun situation, we still consult them, we still work with them, but we choose a different mentor.
Ito mabilis sagutin in relation to that. How can we ignite to getting to the culture of mentoring and coaching? Kasi mukhang a-attend din naman daw siya ng PSTD training, no? At saka we will consider the other suggestions. Pero I think big picture yun sa kanya, broader na igniting the culture of mentoring.
Kailangan mo ng role model eh.
Yeah.
So, kailangan yung presidente,
Mentor.
CEO, is a model mentor.
Yeah.
And should be advocate of mentoring.
Importante yung championing,
yung championing, importante yon. Kasi, tapos dapat nakikita yung ganong behaviors sa leaders. Kasi otherwise, kung di nakikita yung behavior, talk lang yan eh. Hindi ganon. So, you need to work with the leaders first.
Yeah.
And it's a given. Whether we like it or not, everybody would always be waiting for the body signals of the CEO.
Mm.
You know, so how the CEO behaves, everybody wants to behave in the same way. So yung mga hindi nagbe-behave that way, usually hindi nagtatagal. So ganoon. So talagang yung growth mindset kailangang exhibit ng
That's
leader.
right. Pero ako, kasi paano kung hindi, no? Paano kung yung CEO hindi mentor? Hopeless na ba yung mentoring culture? In my opinion, hindi naman. Kung yung HR or yung talent development practitioner is a credible activist. Meaning, kung hindi mentor yung yung CEO, baka may iba doon sa higher level management.
That's
pwedeng mentor.
that's a very good point. Maaaring hindi siya mentor, but he should be a sponsor.
Oh, sponsor. Yes. Yes.
He should be a sponsor. Tapos, kailangan clear sa kanya yung behavioral expectations. Yung of a mentor. Para hindi ma-shoot down those who are practicing mentor, especially in meetings. Kasi kung siya mismo nag-shoot down, mahirap yun.
Para magawa yun, going back to the talent development practitioner, kung ikaw ay leading from the middle, at gusto mo ma-cultivate yung mentoring culture, you have to sell it, you have to influence the organizational leaders na kung masyado akong walang time for mentoring or marami akong excuses for mentoring as a CEO, I should sponsor it. I should champion it. Require who needs to be required to demonstrate those competencies as a mentor.
Kasi kailangan mag-create.
Kailan tayong topic sa usapang training?
Meron yan. Mentor maganda ka na. Ikaw ang guest namin.
Kailangan mag-create ka ng cognitive dissonance dun sa leader na yung behavior niya hindi nagmamatch dun sa sinasabi niya. Para i-adjust niya yung behavior.
Okay.
Ang question kaya pa natin,
Sige.
With 11 minutes to go, what resources daw can you share that would be the best in terms of being agile in HR structure for succession planning, preferably for small to medium-sized organization? Resources in terms of being agile in HR for succession planning. Meron ka bang mga top of mind na resources, books, or pwede naman ito follow na lang natin, Bobby. Pwede natin ito follow.
Sa akin, iba. Parang sa consultancy ko.
How do I put it? Resources.
Siguro the 9 box is the first.
Hindi, yung 9 box kasama kasi
Sa
yun
tool.
as a tool, di ba? That we all use. Ang tanong niya kasi to be agile Yung when you talk of agile, iba yung
Iba.
kasi yung sa Scrum process.
Ah.
So we provide training on agile. Okay. So I'm not too sure kung yung question ay to be agile.
Yung succession ba ay pwedeng gawing agile?
Parang ganun, para
we know we want leaders who are agile. Ibang usapan yun.
Sa agile method kasi, meron kang system of prototyping. Di ba? Sa system of prototyping, you try to test what are the elements that works best for your organization. And then you come up with we call it the winning prototype. Tapos, it is the winning prototype that you implement.
Okay.
And you go to a test system. So what I would recommend is that you start with some elements and then test whether it's going to work within your organization. That's one. Second, it has to be a priority of your CEO. Kailangan importante sa kanya. Because if you're doing that is not important to him, baka sayang yung effort. Pero, so kailangan may conversations ka with the CEO on what is important for him for succession planning.
Lagi may executive support.
Yeah.
Oo.
Tapos when we talk of agile, sabi ko nga, you try to look for a winning prototype and it doesn't have to be complete. That means you can look at components of succession planning to be put in place first before looking at, depende kayo sa organization in terms of what is needed at this point. So it's not a one size fits all. Like what I mentioned might not all be relevant to your organization. So baka yung some elements lang from what we have discussed would be important. Halimbawa, I talk about mission critical roles. If you can talk about, if you can target 3 to 4 mission critical roles in your organization, that's most important, that would require succession planning. That's a good step already. From the agile perspective, isang element na yon that you can test. Okay. Dun sa 3 or 4 positions, hanapan mo ngayon on what are the elements that you're looking for. Is this the right position? Why are they mission critical? Mag-retire ba yung the one occupying? Kailangan bang i-reassign the one occupying? So it becomes mission critical. So kailangan kang magkaroon ng small wins. So yung small wins, importante din sa credibility mo as HR. Once you compile your small wins and on succession planning, then you build the credibility until you launch a big project. Ako, I would avoid having a big project immediately, right away, all the policies in place. You come up with the policies just when needed. Hindi kasi kailangan malinis lahat Kailangan lang, and it could be in terms of part, like yung mentoring program namin ni Maribel, separate yun. Yung management training program namin, separate yun. Yung career conversations, separate yun. So, they all work in tandem. Yung performance management system, separate yun. Pero they, like in your model, the PSTD model. It's one whole model.
Yes.
Diba? Pero you do not have to work na everything should be there immediately.
No.
Diba? So, yung what is most
It's a journey.
needed, it's a journey. It's what is most needed by the organization. You start there. Yun. Tapos, is there a key resource? Ang dami kasing kailangan basahin. Yung you never stop learning. Yung, I've been in several organizations. Hindi pwedeng hindi hungry for learning and talent development practitioner.
There's so much that you have to learn in order to get things done.
Things develop over the course of the year.
Ayun nga yung sinasabi ni Bobby kanina na you compile your successes. You also compile the lessons. Diba?
Yung wins mo, then ganun, then you reflect on it and what works. Basta kailangan lang yung you work on the elements that is most needed by the organization.
Final question. Final question na dahil
Okay na, marami lang comments. No?
There's
a lot of
sige, basahin muna natin yung mga comments para
yung mga comments. I will work backwards. Sabi ni Miggy, I also agree that not all leaders can mentor. I had a supervisor who was just that, taga-audit lang daw. Multiplying sa mentorship, Si Victoriana, matching mentors and mentees is also very critical. Okay? Anchoring mentoring with the on-the-job application. While they can talk about everything under the sun, because if there is an on-the-job application that can anchor mentoring so we can see if discussions are fruitful. Reverse mentoring also happens in the process, di ba? Lalo na ngayon sa mga bata, sa mga Gen Z. Ako, mentor ko sa technology, yung aking mga Gen Y, sabi ni, in a lot of praises, thank you for this very enlightening session. Mga nagpapa-thank you na lang, lots of appreciation happening being mentioned in the chat.
Okay. So, final question. Nakita mo yung TD framework, right? And what we're trying to do sa Usapang Training Atbp is look at each of the components. I really appreciate what you said na this is not something you like bago mo tawaging TD practitioner ka, kailangan nagawa mo lahat. It's a journey. And from a perspective of the Philippine Society for Talent Development, ano yung may papayo mo or recommendations mo for PSTD to help the members develop their competencies for succession planning and succession management? What should PSTD do sa tingin mo?
Organizations kasi would have different experiences of what works, what doesn't work. So if we can have more conversations on succession planning. Kasi ano to yung model building is a continuing process, especially for succession planning. Yung sabi ko kanina, what works in one organization might not work in yours.
Science pa lang, malaking ano na.
Yung tapos the commitment that is needed,
the readiness,
tapos yung range of experience of the HR. HR responds to the needs of the business. Okay, that's how we become partners of business. We deliver the goods that would have the biggest impact to the business, to the organization. That is how we build our importance. If they do not feel the impact of what we're doing, then we have to reflect on it. Succession planning may be needed by a lot of organizations, but the models would be different. So we could have more conversations on different models, different success experience, and what did not work. Kasi nabanggit ni Pearl na very few yung succession planning models na nakikita natin na talagang
successful.
Yung may replacement plan pero hindi man nasusunod.
Saka yung nakikita mo na nag-progress yung nandun sa succession.
Oo, di ba? Pero yung mga ganoon, kailangan ma-document. If we can do documentation of those success experience, then we learn kasi from those stories rather than simple concepts. Ganon.
Siguro maganda rin na I realize from what you're talking about, we need to have more conversations, maybe more usapang training than focusing on certain succession models. And given the rareness of successful succession management program, we should recognize yung mga companies na merong magandang succession program so that we can learn from them as well. So yeah. All right. So, eksakto 7:30. So diyan po nagtatapos ang ating episode. Pero syempre bago matapos yan, wrap up lang tayo. Key takeaway mo, Pearl?
I think sa akin yung key takeaway ko is that yung pagiging napaka elite ng succession planning process. It's not the successors, but the process itself is very elite because you only have a few successors doon sa yung succession plan. It's not something na kasi
open to everyone.
Parang mag-succession planning tayo kasi it's the inward, di ba? Parang na-experience ko na yun sa ibang organizations na inward, sige mag-succession planning tayo. But they don't realize that succession planning really takes a lot of focus from HR and from the managers themselves. So yun sa akin yung
Okay. Louis?
Number 1, mission critical. Focus on the few, di ba? Para talaga you can invest all of the resources there. Number 2, not all managers could really be effective mentors. So be careful in selecting your mentors.
Oo. Ako naman, malinaw magkaiba yung career management at saka yung succession management. Kasi baka isipin natin na magkarugtong yun, some people will feel left out. Hindi, we need a robust career management program and a robust succession planning program and management program that allow the right people to develop towards the right position in the organization. Okay. So, thank you so much, Bobby.
Thank you.
Meron akong two
sige,
stories
sige.
before we end up. Nandiyan pa naman sila. Hindi, bakit ang ano to? Kasi GE used to be our model organization. And GE
Robert
used to
Field.
have, di ba?
Rotonville University.
May Roberto University. They're known habang ang galing-galing. And yet, 2018, they had to hire someone from outside, Lawrence Cole.
To replace si Jack Welch.
Hindi, may mga sumunod na kay Jack Wells na didn't do well. So may succession planning sila from within. But the organization has not been able to adapt to the needs of the external market. To the point that they had to get someone from outside. Kasi they need to change the organization. So they look for someone outside. Lawrence Cole came from Danaher Corporation. There's a Harvard case study on this. When I came to Gunung Sewu, that's the first na binigay sa akin ng CEO, ng owner to read. Look at this. How do you manage an organization, pati yung change? So yung resources, sinasabi, read on that Danaher Corporation. It's a Harvard case study. Another example, si Kat, what's her name? Katrina Cole. Si Katrina Cole, ano siya, presidente dati ng Cinnabon. Bago siya naging presidente ng Cinnabon, she worked at Hooters. You're familiar with Hooters? You're familiar with Hooters.
Kwento sa akin mamaya. Okay.
Magandang career transition yan, ha? Oh.
She worked there as a waitress. She worked as a waitress. She was started working, I think, at 17 or 18. She was an undergrad. Kailangan niya mag-work, so nag-work siya as waitress. She was working at Hooters as waitress, but she learned how to cook, she learned how to manage yung operations that she was chosen. I think she was 19 or 20. I learned about this because she was a speaker sa SHRM sa US. Conference. I was so amazed. I was so impressed. Kasi it's 18, 19 because kahit na anong bigay sa kanya, she takes it on. Yung perfect as a bintology. Mag-manage ka, mag-cook ka, everything.
Pero
natutunan niya.
yan, own initiative.
Tas training person siya. HR siya. So, she was asked to help the first branch sa Sydney ng Hooters. She was 19 or 20 if I remember right. Sige. And at 24, she became vice president of the organization. And then she was pirated. 35, she was president of Cinnabon. Ganon talaga yung, if you are open to new experience and if the organization is willing
Support.
to provide you with the opportunities to learn, experience many things, that would spell wonders to your growth as a leader. And that is succession planning.
And that is talent development, no? Dahil yun yung ano natin we want to help people realize their full potential. And that's why we're going through all these conversations, all these learnings, because in order to do that, we also need to realize our potential as talent developers. So that ends our Usapang Training. At magkita-kita po tayo uli next week.
Online na.
Online. At medyo mahirap i-set up ito.
Pero may pinaplano kami na di lang ang mga hosts ang magkakasama. Abangan nyo, wait for the announcement na we will open it as well to maybe 20 or 30 people who can really confirm their attendance. Abangan nyo po yan, ha?
Sa kaming mga host at sa mga guests.
Okay, so diyan po tayo nagtatapos. Group picture ba? Group picture? May group picture ba tayo?
Kuha ka ba ng group picture?